The Penn State Nittany Lions just got some wild coaching search news. Let's talk about it. My name is Aaron with my buddy Paul. We are the Big Ten guys on the daily pushing out Big Ten news. So don't miss it. All you got to do is subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit the like button. I'll tell you what, I'm grinning ear to ear right now. Michigan State just brought on Pat Fitzgerald, once the head coach at Northwestern for 17 years, the winningest head coach there, then obviously got caught up in quote-unquote scandal, was vindicated when he won a settlement against Northwestern, and he's probably swimming in cash, and he wants to prove people wrong in East Lansing as well. Bob Chesney, no relation to Kenny Chesney from what I know, moving on to LA from James Madison. UCLA, the Bruins hoping that they can get a repeat of Curt Cignetti in Indiana, but in UCLA with Chesney, we'll see how that goes. And that leaves the Big Ten with Penn State. Penn State, one of the first teams to fire their coach, James Franklin. Obviously, he has already moved on to Virginia Tech, but getting a head start doesn't mean you're going to get the person right away. You would think, but no. And I would think that leads us to believe something simple. When it comes to Kraft in this school, this program, chances are they are looking at an elite person that is still in contention in the playoffs. Case in point, Dable or Sitake. And you're going to say, Aaron, what in the world? We already know this. We've heard these names. But again, let's jump into it real quick. So you look at all the coaches taken. Again, a lot of people thought Bob Chesney was a huge potential for the Nittany Lions. Obviously, he went a different direction. But you look at Kalani Sitake as well as Kalen DeBoer. And the first question comes to my mind is this, and I feel like it's pretty simple. Why would you want to leave those programs? And again, I think this is why this gets kind of wild. Let me explain. So DeBoer, leaving Washington, had just made the national championship with the Huskies, leaves, go to Alabama to take over after Nick Saban hangs up his headset and rides off into the sunset to go do college game day in the morning. But besides that, he goes to probably one of the most storied programs in recent history in college football in Alabama. And then Sitake at BYU, he's a Mormon. He played there. He's been successful there. Why would you want to leave? Sure, shoot, your church is there as well as your school, your alma mater, the place that you love. Why would you want to leave? So what makes this wild is this. What is Kraft, what is Penn State offering these guys that they would be willing to lend an ear to the conversation? I would tell you this, DeBoer, chances are he has gone to Alabama and he's realized maybe one of two things is money talks, go to Penn State, potentially have an easier quote unquote path to the playoff. But as well, they're willing to even put more money behind him than the Crimson Tide would. I see that being possible, maybe unlikely, but Penn State would need to do a lot to get someone like DeBoer to leave. Now, BYU, I think that's a different story. Though Sitake has a ton of connections, clearly, if he jumped ship and went over to Penn State in Happy Valley, he would have a lot more resources and a lot more money, a lot more stuff where he would be able to win. Again, he has been successful. You look at his record at BYU. Since 2016 and on, he's had 4 seasons where he has won 10 or more games for the Cougars. And you have to know, looking at the recruiting class, it's nothing crazy. So again, the idea is this. You take a guy who's successful at a program like BYU, which I would tell you is, average above average, and give him the resources to really recruit. His ceiling would be, who even knows? What is his potential? And so I give them that. I don't think that's a bad idea. But again, when you let all these other coaches, these especially young coaches, slip through your fingers, the question becomes for Kraft, what is the direction you are taking this program? What are you doing? Is it going to be a player? Is it going to be a coach like Sitake, which he's already came out and said, hey, listen, we're focused on the Big 12 championship. They're playing Texas Tech as well. DeBoer, he's probably not going to answer any questions because they're too busy trying to, play their SEC championship game as well. But when it comes down to it, I think it's wild to think that these two coaches would be willing to leave their programs for Penn State. Again, it would lead you to believe that whatever the contract negotiations are, or whatever the monetary value, whatever the backing, the resources, whatever it might be, is too good not to listen to. So again, Kraft is coming out, and the question is going to be this. Is he going to hit a little single, or is he going to hit an absolute grand slam? My question to you is this. What in your mind, Nittany Lions fans, would be a grand slam? What would be a home run? Again, I think Sitake, I'm not going to necessarily go out there and say that's a home run in the sense of, were there a lot of other coaches that I think, people expected to see first? I think maybe in the media's eyes, Sitake is not a home run. Maybe in Nittany Lions fans, it's not a home run. I think DeBoer would be. I think it would be a grand slam. But then the question becomes as well, you look at other coaches that potentially are still on the table. Brian Daboll. Again, you laugh at that, but Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator under Nick Saban when they won one of their national championships, went on to the Giants. It's hard to go from college to the NFL, because in the NFL, it's kind of, I guess, coaching in general, it's like these are the guys you got to figure out. And it's not like college where they just jump into the transfer portal. It's like you have a bunch of guys that you didn't necessarily get, where now in college football, it's like a ton of guys can leave and you can bring in a ton of the guys you want. So college, or in NFL, it's much different. But again, the question becomes for Nittany Lions fans, between Sitake and Daboll, do you think either are possible? Do you think they're leaning more towards Sitake? And apparently Penn State talks with BYU. It keeps heating up, and he's not willing to talk about, which I respect. He's still being loyal to BYU. We see Lane Kiffin couldn't even wait till after the playoff. Who knows what Ole Miss is going to do in the playoff? He must not trust them if he doesn't think they're going to be able to go to the national championship. But that being said, I think it would be wild for Penn State to come out and get a coach like Sitake. Again, is it the sexiest hire? I wouldn't say necessarily. But he's been successful at BYU. Clearly, he cares about BYU. It's where he went. He's a Mormon. All these different things. And so leaving his alma mater for Penn State would probably have to take a lot. But again, Kraft, Penn State, clearly, if they're looking at him saying, hey, he's our guy, we think he can do it. What's taking so long? Maybe it's the respect thing. Maybe he doesn't want to do what Lane Kiffin did. But again, is it him? Is it someone else? Who the heck knows? Who the heck knows? But I think Kraft, as we see it right now, he continues to keep, I feel like he's just put into a corner. And it's like, okay, you fired James Franklin. What the heck is the next move? What are you going to do? It leads me to believe it has to be one of these two guys, because they're waiting on the outcome of them in the playoffs or whatever it might be. And let's say BYU loses to Texas Tech and then they don't make the playoff. I would think you'd hear an announcement quick, and possibly same on Alabama side. But I would think Sitake is much more likely. Again, you make it to the mountaintop. Like I don't know, baseball analogy. You become the manager for the New York Yankees, and you leave for a great program that's a blue blood program. Like I don't know, the Red Sox. But people are kind of scratching their head. Why would you leave the Yankees? I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make any sense, but it made sense to me. So comment below. Tell me what you think. Sitake, Daboll, DeBoer, or Brian Daboll. Shoot, John Gruden. Who the heck knows? But that's the thing. If it was Daboll, I feel like they would have already announced it. So that's why I feel like that's the crazy thing is it has to be, I would assume, Daboll or Sitake. So comment below. Tell me what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We'll talk later. Peace.